I'm going to keep going while I'm still thinking about it. I'm getting hoarse, as you can hear. Okay, after the cruise ships, I used to stay in that hotel, in a motel, when I worked on the cruise ships, and got very depressed there. And just about killed myself once there. I had my gun loaded, and I was going to shoot myself, and my friend West phoned me up and said, "You better not, Richard, because he wasn't religious, but he said, you know, you'll never go to heaven if there is one. If you kill yourself, take your own life." And I sort of straightened myself out, and I wrote a lot of good songs then. They were the songs, "No One in the Universe That Can Ever Compare to You," "Blue Side of Blue." I wrote a lot of nice songs there. Anyway, I was crying, and that's what booze does to you. Anyway, so after the cruise ships finished and everything, and I went to detox, and I don't know if that was the time I stayed for a month out in Maple Ridge, but I straightened out and quit drinking, and thought I got to straighten my life out. I didn't want to work on the cruise ships. I'd rather play the blues on a street corner than do that anymore. My career was going nowhere. So when I got out of the detox, I happened to run into my friend Bill Crompton, who had been involved in Holiday in Hollywood, and he'd always believed in me. He always told me I had the voice, you know. So did Andy, a commercial voice, you know, and for singing. That's why I was nominated on the Junos for Best New Male Vocalist. Anyway, I moved in with Bill in an apartment in Burnaby. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and I had one room, he had the other. I went into that earlier about living there anyway, and I did a lot of recording in the bedroom. I made 150 tracks, or 130, I can't remember, all these background tracks for my singing and playing guitar with, but I never used them. I used to get up every morning, work for 2 or 3 hours, play all the piano parts, tap all the drum tracks out on the keyboard, put strings in, horns, everything. I did all kinds of great songs, you know, Shotgun, and I still got them on some kind of floppy disks upstairs. I went through that in another chapter, I remember, off on a side shoot, but I don't know, I just have to do things as I remember them. Anyway, I started playing with a band called the Chris Munday Band. They were doing Legions. Tom Cunningham was an agent then. He booked them. And I met him, and he booked me. He liked my Jerry Lee piano playing. And I shouldn't have never got into the Jerry Lee piano playing so much, even though I'm real good at it. It sort of took over my life for a while, and I ended up, you kind of lose your identity doing that. People wanted me to do Jerry Lee tributes and everything. And I don't play just like him here. Nobody plays like him. But I wrote a lot of songs back then, so my songwriting is different than that. But I did write one song that was called Rockin' My 88s. Anyway, that band had Bobby Regan, Chris Munday, Rick Enns, myself, and it was a really good band, pretty good band. They wanted to... Bill kind of pissed me off because, well, they ended up saying it was Chris Munday Band featuring Richard Stepp, but he wanted to take us to Europe, and she didn't have the talent. I said to Bill, "You're crazy, man." They were playing Legion. If you're going to take me to Europe, take me to Europe, not them. Anyway, during that time, I recorded some songs at a studio with Bill in the East End. I did Driving Down the Freeway. I did, Driving Down the Freeway. There's about 4 or 5 songs on the Crompton Sessions, they're called. And I did Hopes and Dreams. I don't know, I did 3 or 4 songs. Oh, The Hunter and Black is Black. Black and Black's a song by Los Bravos that Bill had something to do with. I don't know what, but he could never find the right guy to sing it, probably including me. But and then he took those songs over to Europe and said he was getting a deal together. I signed all my publishing over to him, and when he died, I went in his room and found the contracts, and I eventually got it all back. I put that in another part of my story way back when. I looked forever for that piece of paper I made him sign to get that damn contract back with all my songs, and then I finally got them back off of BDO, which was a company that took over his estate, because they came and got all his stuff. I grabbed all his gold records, and they're not real gold records, though they're phony gold records. But he painted them, put them in. But he did have big hits, that guy, Bill Crompton. He had House of Bamboo. I went into there was another chapter I went into all his hit records that he had. And so I lived with him for a while. And then he died. And I met a girl named Julia Chow during my travels there. She was beautiful looking, very slender and thin. And we started going out together. And then I used to swim every day up at the community center there. It's just full of people. I hated it up there. It was so busy. And I went out with Julia for a while. She was so weird and fussy. She would always, when she come to my place, she would always bring her own cutlery and everything. It's like, yucky, don't touch anything. Anyway, I went out with her for a while. That's when I lived in that place in Burnaby. Bill died when I was away. There was a lady came from Germany over to see me, Cornelia, her name was. And when I played over in Germany, I met her over there, but she'd come over later on to see me and stayed with me for a week at Bill's, our apartment there. And we had a 2-bedroom apartment then. Anyway, I was playing the Legions and stuff with Chris Mundy's band. And then I got an offer to go. I started going to see Dr. Bano. He was a psychiatrist. And I told him all my stories and stuff. And then he gave me a bunch of pills. And then I didn't like the pills. Eventually I quit taking them. They never helped me, I got out of depression by exercising and getting my life straightened around a bit, not drinking, of course. And I did go back to drinking here and there, but I used to go see Dr. Banner. After he heard all my stories, all he ever wanted to talk to about is the music business. And so he finally retired, but I told you that story before too. But anyway, in the meantime, I got booked over to Sweden and Germany, and I didn't drink over there. I went over there with while I was staying at Bill's place. I flew over, landed in England, and then over to I think Frankfurt, and then up to Sweden, and I went to Stockholm and a place called Linköping, and I went there for I guess I was there for a month each, I think it was, to play the piano bars. And Linköping was really nice. I took a high-speed train out there, and then it was all free food. They have a big buffet every morning, like a lot of that Mucilex cereal and yogurts and boiled eggs and stuff like that. And then I'd have a dinner every day, and I played the little piano bar downstairs. The people there, they used to ride their bicycles down and then take cabs home at night because of the drinking. They were strict on drinking. The drinks were, cripes, they were about $8.50 for a beer, Canadian, 15 or 16 Corona, I forget what it was, but or 40 or something. But it was about $8 or $10 for a beer. I wasn't drinking then, so probably if I would have been drinking, I would have had more fun because, I'm used to it now. But at the time, the people there smoked a lot, and they drank a lot too. But they always wanted to hear Elton John and Billy Joel, and I was more like a Jerry Lee, old-fashioned Southern piano style, and I thought they would love it over there, but they're not. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird. And I met one girl there. She was a blonde. Her and her girlfriend. I used to sort of see them. And then when I went down and I went swimming there a lot too in the pool. And I went around seeing a lot of the monuments and neat things. I went to a church there for Easter once where they have daffodils. Couldn't understand a word, but they had, I remember they had big slabs on the floor with the ministers or popes buried under there. It was a nice country, though. I liked it a lot. And then I went down to Stockholm, and I went all through the Gold Museum there, and I went through the palace buildings where the king and queen live, and the old town of Stockholm is really beautiful, all old brick buildings and rocks, and I did a lot of time around there walking around Stockholm. Because I didn't drink, I'd get up in the morning, go for long walks all over the place, and I remember that girl and her girlfriend came down and to visit me once at the piano bar, but I didn't drink, so I didn't know what to do with them. I'd take them upstairs. What am I going to do? If you don't drink, it's not so much fun. You can't get loose, And I felt nervous about it. I probably could have had a real good time if I would have been drinking. But they ended up getting drunk and picking up a couple of airline pilots or something and going off. So, but the Viking Gold Museum was something else. All these old Viking swords and everything, all this gold. I've got pictures of it somewhere. Anyway, when I came back from that, and I sent Dr. Bano some postcards and stuff like that, and then I went, after my trip to Germany, I met that Cornelia over there. She took me on a little trip around Germany and showed me some old churches and stuff. And Germany, I had to go there. I had all this equipment with me, my electric piano and everything. Same thing as the ships. And I landed in Frankfurt. Then I had to take a train down to this place called Walsut, where I was working. It's down near the Zurich border, right on the river, and the Rhine River. And so I got off and had a haul. I went to Zurich first, I guess, and then took the train. And then I had to haul all that stuff around. And he gave me a little apartment to stay in at this house. I called him Little Hitler. He was a real jerk. Anyway, and a bicycle I could ride, so I'd bicycle down to my gig. At night, everybody smoked heavy. The place was packed, though, but he watched his watch all the time at every break. I felt like quitting that place, but I hung it in and went swimming in this pool down the road. They had an outdoor pool, but it was freezing cold. Nobody in it except for me. But I still kept my swimming going. And I met Cornelia there. That's where I met her. She was in the bar one night, and I don't know, some people were hassling me, and she sort of butted in and stuck up for me. She sort of knew some bikers or something. I don't know. She wasn't like a biker girl, though, but I started sleeping with her a little bit. They had fantastic desserts in Walsut, all these German bakeries, man. I used to buy them. And it was a really neat old town. It was like very old, And I used to bicycle 20 miles or so down the Rhine River on these bicycle paths where people had little huts where they had gardens, like community gardens. I think I went through all this before, but might as well tell it while I'm thinking about it. And I used to go up this mountain, walk the bike up, and then ride it down. There was a little one-man church up there just for one person to go in, or two, go in and pray, but a beautiful view of the Black Forest. And there was it's a park like there's sort of old farms where they still run them like the old days and make their own cheese. And so anyway, I came back to Burnaby after that, and Bill died. Cornelia came over to stay with me for a week. She came from Germany after a while, and I lost my dad's war medals, by the way, after that somehow. I rebought some new ones, some new old ones to replace them, but I used to get people over to my apartment, same thing, partying, and then, you don't know what happens. Anyway, Cornelia came over to visit me and stayed at my place for a week with Bill, and that was okay. I forgot my train of thought, what I was going to tell you about her. Anyway, she went back to Germany finally and got married. Anyway, while she was over there, that's what I was going to say, we decided I was going to take her on a trip so we got a car, we went over to Victoria, or Nanaimo, I guess. And we drove up from Nanaimo and we got on the Queen of the North, the ship I used to play on for years. Every summer I played on the Queen of the North from Port Hardy up to Prince Rupert. We'd go up there and one day come back the next, and I played piano on there. It finally sank, that ship, and I painted one of my pictures on that ship. Mark Hobson, that's the guy's name, the artist I've been trying to think of. Anyway, we went up there, got off, went into Prince Rupert, stayed overnight, and then we were driving across. We were going to drive across to Prince George, or from Prince Rupert over to, I guess it's Prince George, and then come back down as a round trip, and we got as far as Houston, and it was beautiful up there, nice mountains. I think it was Houston, around there somewhere, and they called at me and told me that Bill had died because he'd had a heart attack about a couple of weeks before up at the SkyTrain. Bill used to get on the SkyTrain every night and go downtown and have dinner and everything. He liked going out in the nightclubs, and he liked to have dinner and all that. And he had diabetes, and so used to cook his peas for like 20 minutes. Anyway, he had a heart monitor when I went on the holiday with Cornelia, and he said that they said he'd be all right. I said, "You sure, Bill?" "Oh yeah, I'm going to be fine." Yeah. So I went away, and then I called home, found out somebody called me. They were trying to get a hold of me that he died. So I had to rush back home with Cornelia and forget the rest of the trip. And she had to fly home because I had all this work to do, figure out what to do. I couldn't afford a 2-bedroom apartment, that's for sure. And so I started cleaning out the trustee. We tried to find Bill's relatives. We tried like crazy, couldn't find anybody. He had his bedroom locked. I think I broke the lock to get into it. And I took all my contracts out of there, grabbed everything I could that was worth anything, I thought. And Bill had I got a whole bag of all these sex things and videos and crap, and I took them all out, threw them in the dumpster so nobody would find them. He even wrote a porno book, and he wrote actually a Broadway musical too. He was a writer, so everybody's got their own little sex trip going, who knows. But anyway, I cleaned everything out. They took his car away, and I hauled all his trunk full of stuff over to this storage place and put it away, and then the trustee came, and they were trying to even take the furniture over. And I got Gordon Dowding to phone him up and tell him, "Hey, that furniture's half mine. You can't go taking my furniture away." And so anyway, I rescued what I could, and they come and took his nice little car away. He had a Camaro in really good shape and everything. Took it all away, and so then I had to move. So I moved in the same building down the hall to another single bedroom apartment, and that's where I started dating Julia, and I did a lot of recording there. I started transferring all my reel-to-reel tapes over to CDs. I bought a burner, and in real time too. God, it took forever. And I got rid of all my cruise ship clothes, and I don't know. Those days were pretty good. And I did a lot of work there, though. Angela came out a couple times to visit me, and she had an apartment there. But I don't know, I could never quite get into going with her. But Julia, I thought, was real beautiful. And then Dr. Bano got me on a sort of like a disability thing so that I didn't have to work quite as hard, but I still worked all the time. And I got onto free medical pills and stuff, which helped me a lot, because if he wouldn't have signed that form, man, I don't know what would have happened to me. And so then I finally went to BC Housing after Bill died, and because still having a hard time making ends meet, you know. And Jesse was going to move in with me once. He came in and stayed for a few days and then left. And I don't know if he ever paid me for I told him he got to pay rent, but he was so used to living at Dowding's, and he went back home. I'm glad he did anyway, because it was better for him. And so anyway, after that, I got to BC Housing, and they offered me a place in Burnaby. I went and looked at it, and it wasn't so great. In the meantime, I'd met Ed Cerny, who's still a friend of mine nowadays. He used to own a rock company in Vancouver. They did a lot of the rock work on the bridges around town, Alex Fraser Bridge and stuff like that. And he started coming down to the Best Western every night when I was playing there. And he'd have a drink and dinner and all this stuff. And we became friends, and then we ended up going to Nashville together. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. And he helped me to move to Kuhn Towers. And I went out there. It was a one-bedroom place. It was like a little place. Had hot water heating, which was good. I was on 15th floor, 1511. And it was okay living there. We met this guy in the elevator, Slade Steele. I think I told this story before, too. But anyway, he was an old rubby guy. A lot of weird people in that place, boy. Apparently it used to be nicer at one time. I think I told you that I'd played the parties. I played their Christmas party a couple of times there for them for nothing. And anyway, I went, when I first moved there, I ran into Julia one day, and we had another little fling for a little bit. And then she had heart problems and ended up getting a pacemaker. But I'd had enough of her by then. She's too weird and fussy, and I don't know. We just broke it off again. And I was still playing singles all over the place all the time. I had an old 64 Chrysler that I'd bought off this guy. It was in good shape back then. It was a nice car. And then I was playing. I'm going to go into my Nashville trip on a separate thing here. I'm just going to finish this little bit off. I was playing out in, I got another trip to Watson Lake I'm going to do. I was playing out in Crescent Beach Legion. I played all these Legions all over, and then I started playing after the Chris Munday band broke up. We even backed up a Roy Orbison guy once. I ended up going on myself again, playing singles, and I booked all the Legions. God. I was playing Crescent Beach Legion one time, and I was single. I'd been broken up with Julia for a couple of years by then, and I saw this lady dancing out in the dance floor with this sort of blonde hair. What a beautiful girl. She's not young, but I went, holy mackerel. Now there's the kind of girl I've been looking for all my life. She looked like Russian, and she had such great moves. The way she danced was so unusual. It wasn't like someone, it was so neat. I was mesmerized by her, and I watched her all the time she danced. She was dancing with some guy with head bracers on his pants, for God's sakes. But I couldn't believe the way she moved around. And I thought, oh man, boy, I'd like to meet her. And so I'm playing my set, and when I finished playing my set, I went down to look for her, and she was gone. And I looked all over the place in the Legion for her. God, she's gone. And so I went around, I started asking all these people, you know who this was? No, we don't know that one. I said, the blonde one that was dancing so neat. Because of Marsha's sister, Irene, and Ivan, her boyfriend, husband, used to drink there all the time. Irene was even president once, but I didn't know them. And I'd had a falling out with them anyway, because one time when I was playing there was a Chinese couple wanted to do a tango or something, and I said, well, I'll bring a tape down and play it for you. And I'd played this tape, and Ivan had come up to me, and Irene had sent him up. It's too loud. And I thought, oh, I don't like those people. So I kind of told him off, and so I didn't talk to them, but I tried to find out who Marsha was, and for the next year, I went back playing there probably 3 or 4 times. Every time I went there, I asked about her. No, nobody remembered her. And I thought, gosh, that's too bad. I looked all over White Rock. Every time I walked around out in White Rock here, I was, if I came out here for some reason, I was still at Kuhn Towers. I looked for her, and I never seen her. And I thought, oh, gee, that's too bad. And so then I happened to be playing there one time, and all of a sudden, I look out, and there she is sitting there. God, I couldn't believe it. And she was sitting with Norma, her girlfriend. And I thought, my God, she's there. Oh. And so I kind of rushed through my set. I hope, don't leave again. And she'd remembered me. She said, I remembered that guy up there on the stage looking at me with the glassy eyes. Probably bugging out. And so I went down, and I said, where have you been? And we kissed, actually. I kissed her on the cheek, I think. And she said, oh, I was back in Los Angeles where I lived. And I just moved up here. I went, oh, my God. So I sat down, and I think we held hands a little bit, and she was touching my foot under the table, and Norma said, don't do that. He'll think you're fresh. And so, but we were enthralled with each other, really. Unbelievable. And so I walked her to the car afterward and kissed her goodnight. And I said, do you want to meet again? And she said, okay. So she gave me her phone number, and we went the next day down to Crescent Beach and took a blanket with us and laid under this tree, which is a lot bigger now, the tree, and put our arms around each other and loved each other. And that was the first time we were alone. And then we went back to her place where I live now and had... we had bacon and tomato sandwich, and then we cuddled on the couch, and we started dating after that, and dated for a couple of years anyway. And then, meanwhile, I took the trip before I met her, I took the trip to Nashville with Ed. But after I met Marsha, we were together all the time. She would come and stay with me at Kuhn Towers, and I'd come out and stay with her, and I got more and more and more and more. I took her to the church I'd been going to because I wasn't drinking. And we got baptized together, and then we got married. So I'm going to do a little chapter about Marsha and I's life. Okay, let's see. That's good enough for now.